Good evening, B-66ers and family. Let me start by saying that this is an honor for us to be here tonight to present our model project that was built in tribute to all of you. When I say all of you, that's not only the folks who flew the airplane, maintained the airplane, or electronic warfare officers, but it was the families. The families who knew what their husbands were doing and had to live with the consequences that may in fact happen. Just give you a little bit of background about myself. This is my good friend John Morgan. He's the man behind this model project. So I'll introduce myself and then let John get in here as well. Tony Accurso, retired Master Sergeant, 24 years in the United States Air Force. Currently the KC-46 Logistics Manager at Edwards Air Force Base. For those who don't know what the KC-46 is, it's the new air refueling tanker that we're building right now to replace the KC-135 and also the KC-10. So we've got a lot of great work going on out there, and we're going to have 2 airplanes at Edwards this time next year. We're going through a 15-month flight test program, certifying about 18 different receivers. So let me just tie that into what this is all about. For me personally, and the reason why this started, besides John's involvement, was what you guys are all about. Preservation and sharing your story with the nation and with our young folks. And I was inspired out of Lackland Air Force Base in basic training by a B-66 that was across from my dormitory. And what this organization is about is preserving those airplanes. So for folks who don't think, if you've ever thought maybe a static display doesn't matter, it does matter. Because I spent a lot of time underneath that airplane as a young airman, inspired by looking at this amazing airplane and wanting to know more about it. And fortunately, a year later, a movie called Bat-21 happened. And let me get into that here in just a second. So let me start with the slides and we'll get a little bit more in depth in that. John, do you want to say something? No, go ahead. Boss has spoken.
No, go ahead.
So here's where the inspiration started. So we had the static airplane at Lackland, and then a year later, a movie called Bat-21 with Gene Hackman came out. And for a young 19-year-old, I was really impressed by the story, but also about an airplane called an EB-66. Didn't know really what an EB-66 is. I saw a WB-66, but didn't know the story behind the EB-66, and I was intrigued by this. So the movie came out, and I remember thinking at the time, wouldn't it be neat if we could build a model airplane of a B-66? I wonder if anybody's ever done it. So fast forward to about 2012, I picked up a book called Glory Days by Wolfgang Sandel, and read that book, and it changed my life. It opened my eyes to what each of you, and those who are no longer with us, did, sacrificed. Went into harm's way without really much protective measures at all. And so, as I read the book, as I got more into the story, I thought, okay, we've got to do something special here, but how do I make this happen? I'm a busy man in the Air Force. I don't have the time to build a model. So, I contacted my good friend John here, and we had a conversation. And another part of the inspiration, I don't know if you folks are aware of this, but on USAirForceCombatCamera.org, there's an interesting story by this combat photographer named Sergeant Steve Hawk, who was supposed to fly on an EB and ended up having to abort because of, I think, an engine problem or hydraulic problem on the airplane, got off the airplane and was due to get back on another airplane to fly, but something came up and somebody else took that flight, and when the airplane took off, they had an engine problem and crashed on takeoff. And he went out there and had to go out there and photograph the scene of the incident that occurred. But when I read the story, it hit me so much that, again, it was further inspiration. Okay, you know, we've got to do something and do something now. And for those of us in flying model airplanes, we do it as fun, right? But also, while we're doing it, we realize for those of us flying scale airplanes, we're flying airplanes that folks flew in combat, in wartime. And so why don't we change gears here and do something a little more special with what we do as a hobby? So our purpose is to honor you. The whole idea of doing this project was to pay tribute to all of you, to educate the public about what you all have done. And we're talking about not just here in the United States. When John started this build project, It was on a website called RC Groups and was chronicled every step of the build, and it was followed by people all over the world. Remember, a B-66 model had never been built, ever. It's never been done as a radio-controlled model, and a lot of people who visited the site had no clue about the history. And each time we posted photographs, each time we posted more of your story, people were diving into it. Matter of fact, Wolfgang, I think he sold some more books on Amazon because of it, to be honest with you. Because John was foot stomping the book, I was as well. But again, even though the airplane depicts an EB, it represents all B-66ers. So from the very beginning of about 1955-56 right till the end of 1974 when Walt Clark flew the last airplane. And so that was our mission. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to John. He's going to get into the model itself so you can see what this man has created. John?
Okay, the book. I know a lot about military aircraft. I've been building them for years and years and years. I didn't know much about the 66 because much of what you guys did was classified, and there's not very much on the net. We searched and searched and searched. This right here will give it, but the book was excellent. I mean, I got into that book and I couldn't put it down. So you'll see the specs on the aircraft we created. 9.8 feet wingspan, 9.5 feet long, blah, blah, blah. 53 pounds, it's got 30 pounds of thrust, which is a 3 to 5 ratio thrust to weight. And that's probably fairly close to what the 66 was. And like I said, we couldn't find any literature on this, or any plans, or we found one really bad plan from the 50s. So we had to create this from 3 views and pictures. And here's the 3 view we used. I took this print shot and blew it up to the size. And then we used pictures and gathered all the information we could. We called people, we did everything. And then when I started building it, I had it all planned out. Tony and Evelyn went out the driveway, chalked out the outline of the plane, the actual size of the aircraft, and that's Evelyn sitting in the middle of it.
Yeah, we were a little obsessed, to say the least.
Yeah. So the first thing was the nacelles. I need to get the nacelles made and shipped off to our EDF, or Electric Ducted Fan expert, Salt Lake City, Wade Joes. And so I built the nacelles, the foam, out of foam, and made a fiberglass mold from that. That way you can make 2 identical nacelles. So I made the fiberglass nacelles, shipped them off to Wade. Meanwhile, he's cutting wing cores, foam wing cores for this thing too. And then once I got those shipped off, I went to the fuse. This took like 2 sheets of 4x8, 2-inch foam. Cut it up, hot wired the shape of it, yada yada. And then I wind up fiberglassing over the top of that plug, making a nice fiberglass fuselage. I cut the top and bottom, parted it, took the plug out, put it back together, and we had our fuse. Then Wade sent back the wing, I sheeted it, got it ready, and this was a milestone in the build. We got the wing on it, and she was starting to look like an airplane. And once the nacelles were mounted, and all the control surfaces were hooked up, wiring installed, the motors were ready to go, we went on to the mock-up of the gear, which Wade Joes also did, and made it very simple for me to go ahead and complete the gear on it. This thing has 3 air systems. The gear's air, the speed brakes are air, and the brakes are air. So it's got 3 separate speed air systems. The nacelles were mounted, the wing was mounted for good. The outer wing panels come off for transport because this thing is big. I got a 17-foot trailer and it takes up a lot. So once it was done in primer, not completed, but it's ready to run. So we were going to take the Chino Valley and maiden it in primer and then finish it.
Arizona, Chino Valley,
Arizona, yeah. And we had a problem transporting that. We broke a little bit on the vertical, but I'm glad we had the problem because we had the CG all messed up. This thing with those nacelles creating a lot of lift, the long nose creating a lot of lift. The CG's a lot farther forward than you expect. So once I realized we had a problem with that, because the nose would lift off for a high-speed taxi without any input. We didn't want that. So I built the small pusher you see over here, and I put the CG in the calculated place. It was wrong. Got lucky, didn't crash the airplane. Moved the CG, we got that established, and this thing flies like a little dream. It's a little pusher, but it flies like a dream. So then we had a specialist on CAD in Canada that did all the CAD work for the detailed cockpit. We sent those off to Shapeways, got those done. I got them back, I sent them to Chad Beach in Arizona to finish them. He sends them back, and Chris Wolf did some work in California on that too.
So let me just touch on this real quick. What you're seeing here, instrument-wise, was basically taken from pictures in books.
Yeah.
We had nothing to go on. So a gentleman up in Canada basically analyzed every picture that was in any book that we could find of the cockpit, and he would redraw in the computer system all of the instruments, switches, you name it. He would get from scratch, and he spent probably a couple of months doing that, and then it was transferred into a program that could 3D print and laser print these parts to recreate the cockpit. So we had nothing. And so what you're seeing here, we basically start from scratch. You've got a picture of the real cockpit and a comparison of the instruments that were created, including this set down here. That's what they came back looking like, and then John Gray primered them and then sent them off to a gentleman by the name of Chad, who hand-painted every instrument in this cockpit.
We just continually fought the lack of information. I mean, we just didn't have it. So once the cockpit pieces were back to me, I got them all installed. Scott Ramirez from California, who's a Hollywood sculptor, did the two figures, the pilot and the navigator.
And the maps. We got some maps. John did the maps. So we have maps.
We got maps of Vietnam.
We do have maps.
And that is scale.
You remember obsessed. You remember that word? Obsessed.
We do get carried away. Once the cockpit was done, the canopy was ready, and it was time for painting and markings. And I went with the typical SEA camo scheme. And you know, and then a slight bit of weathering was done to it also. When we come up with the finished project, and here's the way she turned out. You can see the size. It's pretty good size. And there's a few more pictures of it here. And the plan is to take it to St. George, Utah, and about October 15th or 16th, she's going to do her first flight. And
Guess who's the lucky guy who gets to fly that airplane? This guy, right here. Steady hands is what it's all about. Steady hands.
I did forget the drag chute. I went past that picture. Yeah.
So, in fact, we got so obsessed that you got to have a drag chute on this airplane. So we contacted a gentleman up in Idaho, I believe is where he's based out of. And again, based on photographs alone, he was able to create a replica of the drag chute. It's a 36-inch diameter drag chute that we will be able to deploy. We're not going to put it on the first flight because we don't want the thing to come out inadvertently. So we're going to be real cautious on the maiden flight. But we will do some taxi tests in October, do some high-speed taxis, and then deploy the chute, get some video and pictures of that. That'll all go on YouTube. And of course, we'll provide all those links to you folks so that you can enjoy the videos and the photographs of the flight.
Yeah, and the drag chute is scaled down to the stitch. It's amazing. The guy did a heck of a job on it. So anyway, that completes the build, and then here's our tribute team coming up here, and Tony and Evelyn, me and Brenda. Kirby is our daughter. She helped me some. Wade Joes from Salt Lake City. Burger D. LaPena did a door sequencer. They work exactly like the B-66. Scott Ramirez is a sculptor. James Klassen did the CAD work. Chris Wolf did some printing CAD work for us. Chad Beach painted the instrument panels. And Garen Karen contributed with the motors and fans. So, now,
just an important thing to point out here is that this project is being looked at by model aviation enthusiasts across the world, and a lot of companies wanted to get involved with it because obviously it's a promotion opportunity for them, right? They can sponsor the project, and we decided, no way. We're going to do this all out of our pockets, all out of our time, because that's the right way to do it, to show that a group of folks who are determined to make a tribute project to honor each of you and those who are no longer with us has to be done for the right reasons, not for promotional gain, not for financial gain, but for you folks. And so, as you see down in the bottom, 100% of this was financed by every member of the team and time donated to honor you and those who've lost our nation's finest. So, thank you all for your service.
got any questions, we'd be glad to answer them.
Surely you didn't put J-71 engines back in.
No. We put the improved 71s.
How about 57?
Well, they sort of look like 57. They sound like 57s. They do have these new EDF units have a tremendous sound. They sound like a turbine. They really do.
You have a video of the B-66?
Yes, we do.
It's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube.
We can't, unfortunately, we don't have the ability to.
Yeah, we can't show it right now. It's a 9-minute video. You don't have time.
We're on a schedule.
But it's on YouTube, and it's
Yeah, so if you just search EB-66C or EB-66 taxi,
Yeah.
it will come up.
Yeah,
It's
it'll pop
the
up.
only videos out there. Believe it or not, there's very few videos of the EB-66 or B-66.
Yeah, we look for all of them. There's not very many on there.
So I heard one question about why we were choosing St. George. Okay, so every year we usually pick a different. We usually pick a different location to gather as a group of model enthusiasts, and St. George offered a couple of things for us. It offered a fine paved runway of 600 feet with 200-foot overruns at either end, so when we go to do the maiden flight, we've got more than enough runway if we have an issue, need to abort or whatever. You know, they're not J-57s, but still, you know, it's a 66. We gotta take some precautions. It's a one of a kind, obviously. And then they offer a artificial grass runway as well. So we have some folks that fly airplanes like the pusher airplane that doesn't have landing gear, so you belly landed on an artificial turf or grass field. And then thirdly, the club there was open to what we were doing, and what John and I decided to do was not turn it into our typical gathering of model aviators. We turned it into a Vietnam tribute event. So the purpose of this particular gathering is to get as many Vietnam-era airplanes at this event to fly to honor all of our Vietnam veterans. And there is going to be a bunch of them. And I will tell you that one of my personal missions has been, I'm tied to the RC industry and a demo pilot for a company. And one of the things I've been foot-stomping really hard is that we see a lot of World War II era model airplanes out there. You see P-51s, we got B-17s, you name it, Corsairs. But you don't see a lot of Vietnam-era aircraft. We've got a Skyraider, there's been a couple of Skyraiders done, but they've got a long way to go as far as the industry. And when you take a look at the airplanes that served during Vietnam, there were a lot of jets. So we're trying to push more jets, but you've got things like the OV-10, the O-2. You've got a lot of different prop airplanes that still need to be done. We've got the Spectre gunships, we've got the AC-47s. So I've been contacting companies and saying, folks, we've done a great job honoring our World War II veterans. It's time now to change gears and start creating models of the Vietnam era. And now, an event like this and the project that we're doing is starting to open the eyes of a lot of people, and the response that we've seen online has been phenomenal. So that has been our mission now, and to be quite honest with you, it's my mission until the day I die. My stepfather was a Vietnam veteran. I grew up outside of Homestead Air Force Base watching F-4 Phantoms and SE-8 paint scheme, and was just drawn to this generation and what you all have done. As a Desert Storm veteran, I will tell you that I would not have been able to come back to a warm reception if it wasn't for all of you in this room. For every Vietnam veteran I've ever met, they made sure that we received a hearty welcome home. And I want to thank you and salute each one of you for that, because it meant the world to me coming back. So thank you.
Yes.
Have you checked Wright Pat Air Force Base Museum for these airplanes?
Yeah, we've checked everywhere. I even emailed Smithsonian, and they got back to me in like 2 weeks by mail, as they do. And they don't have a hell of a lot. I hate to say it. I gave that packet to you, and there's just not a lot out there. And I think, you know, the info. I didn't know this much. I knew the destroyer, but I didn't know what it did. I mean, you guys haven't had a lot of fun. You know, you're flying behind the Iron Curtain, they're not going to publicize you're flying over walls, they're not going to tell anybody. So, you know, we had a hell of a time finding information. And we did get some info from some crew members and stuff like that, you know. But, I'm in a hurry. I build all the time, so, You know, I don't wanna wait 6 months or 12 months for info, I wanna get it done.
And I will tell you, the fact that he said yes to this, I was in a hurry too, because I'd be up till 2 in the morning researching, saying, hey, talk to me about the drag chute doors, what do they look like and how they operate. So I'd be to work the next morning at 6 a.m., but I'd be researching till 2 in the morning. So that was the kind of craziness that was going on. But we had a year, and we had a short amount of time to do this.
And I was trying to hurry it up and get it done, and he was a pain in the ass, because every time I did something wrong, I was getting phone calls and emails, and I did several things 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, I ended up being what they call the thread police. So when we were doing this build, my job was to monitor everything that he posted picture-wise, and if something didn't look right, I'd go back to a ton of photos and drawings and go, John, I hate to tell you this, but the antenna doesn't go there, the tail's not right, or you know, those wing pods look a little too thin. We need to go back and fix that, you know. And to his credit, he could have just said, you know what, I don't want to hear from you, I'm just going to do it the way I want to do it, we're going to move on. And he was very receptive, because from the outset, by the way, this project started on Memorial Day of 2015. It was sort of meant to be the way it happened. And the commitment by not only John, but the entire team was, if we're going to do this, we could have done a small one like that, and that would have been it. But if we're going to do this, let's do it big, and let's do it right. Because when you guys look at that airplane, you're going to know if it's right or if it's wrong. Right? So it was very important for us to do our absolute best to get it as right and as accurate as possible with the team that we had. So, yes, obsess, yes, but for all the right reasons for each of you. And it's your airplane. And when you're in the air, think about this for a minute, because we thought about this recently when we flew the Pusher. When I flew that airplane in Americus, Georgia, back in April, it's the first time, think about it, it's the first time a B-66 has been in the air. Was it not?
I flew it.
Oh, that's right, John flew it, yeah. He snuck in a flight, but then she pitched up and then slammed on the ground, so we won't count that really as not much of a flight.
That thing is worth about $10,000, because it probably saved the big airplane. When I first launched it, we had done our best on the CG. We had it at 70% back from the leading edge, and along the route, and it was tail heavy, and it came down, plopped down. When I got lucky, I put a couple ounces in it, moved it up to 62%. It flies like a dream. I mean, it flies like the real. It flies, except it's got an adequate power system.
I have a question. Where you're going to be flying in St. George, Utah, is that open to the public?
It is.
Yes, it's a city park.
Where can we find, because we live in California, we're home
Yeah.
in Vegas, and we'd love to come up.
Oh,
there.
yeah.
Well, what club is it in St. George, Utah?
It's called the Remote Possibilities RC Club.
Yeah, Remote Possibilities RC Club. You can Google it. It'll come up. It's in
Well, we'll see you up there.
Yeah,
Sure,
absolutely.
that'd be great. That'd be great.
We'd love to have y'all come. That would be
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
Oh, they're all this way.
We'll have
Everybody lives on the.
we'll have a mini reunion.
So I want to just go ahead and take a minute just to start to wrap this up, because we've got a clock ticking on us, right? So we want to make sure we stay on. So I've got a couple of presentations I want to personally make, if you all don't mind. Jim Milan, will you please come up? Hello. So, needless to say, Jim has done an amazing amount of work, and from the outset, when we reached out, thankfully, to Jerry Parker, and I contacted Jerry some time ago, and he probably wondered, who is this young kid, and what does he want to do, and why is he trying to contact our association? And thankfully, Jerry was very receptive to us being a part of the Yahoo Groups page and being able to connect with 66ers, and without that, we wouldn't be standing here in front of you. So Jerry, thank you for that, sir. We very much appreciate that. But Jim we've been communicating with Jim for quite some time, and he's always been, as you know, fantastic at supporting folks in this organization, and to be honest with you, embracing us and making us feel like we were family here, because I'll be honest with you, when we first arrived Thursday and we went to register, we got a lot of funny looks, like, did you fly the 66? Because you look really young there, guy. You know, I'm sure a lot of you thought of it, because believe me, we stood there and I thought, should we be going home now? Because something doesn't feel right. But to be honest with you, Jim made us feel right at home and was always accommodating and trying to help us to be able to put together this presentation and allow us to be a part of this. And I just want to say thank you. So I'd like to present Jim with an Edwards Flight Test Center coin. That's just a way of saying thank you, Jim. Can I have Wolfgang Samuel please come to the podium, please?
Big Texan.
So once again, as you saw in the beginning of this presentation, Wolfgang's book was just amazing. And it's like John said, you couldn't put it down. You absolutely couldn't put it down. And I will tell you, as I read through those pages, a lot of emotion had built up in me. And it created this obsession of doing this. Because, you know, we live our lives every day and we do our hobbies, we play golf, whatever we do. But when you have an opportunity to do something special and give back, it was his book that really kind of opened our eyes to the bigger picture of what you all and those who are no longer with us have done for our country. And so as a vote of thanks, we just wanted to present Wolfgang with an Edwards Air Force Base coin as well. Can I ask Walt Clark to come on up, please? As Walt's walking to the podium, I will tell you, from the outset, from the time that I met Walt for the first time in the hospitality room, Walt made us feel very, very welcome. In particular, he made me feel very welcome to the point that he was even willing to let me ride with him in his car, which didn't work out. He was going to let me ride in his car because this obsessive kid here wanted to spend a little more time around the EBC because I had not. We were off the bus, spent a very short period of time, and get back on the bus and be going with our tour. And he was willing to put me in his car and drive us back out to the airplane so I could do some more photos and touch the airplane a little bit more and have that time. It didn't work out, unfortunately, but every day that I had a chance to sit down with this man, my heart was full because he's very special. He represents the best in every one of you and those who are no longer with us. And the fact that he flew that airplane that I was obsessed about on that pole, out there on that concrete pillar for a long time, it surprised me, it shocked me that he was the guy. And I thought, what was the chance of actually meeting the man who flew that airplane? So, and I know there's many others in here who flew that airplane, but I just wanted to say thanks to Walt personally for making us feel welcome and like family. And he's even said, if I'm ever up this way in Kansas, to come over and stay at his place. And believe me, I will take you up on that, sir, without a doubt. So here's a point from Edwards Air Force Base.
You're certainly welcome.
And last but not least, I'd like to present this coin to the man who made this project possible, my good friend John Morgan. John is an incredible master model builder who really kind of gets into his own zone and does his own thing. And when he has to tolerate a guy who's a bit of a type A personality who wants to get it right, just a bit. But I think he would agree that now that you look at that finished airplane, you realize that this was, I think it was, you could say this, it was worth all of the agony that the entire team went through. And I don't even call it agony, I call it passion. There was a passion with every one of the team members to make this happen. Our good friend Scott from Hollywood, who's a sculptor who does these amazing films that you've seen, all the Star Trek movies, he does all kinds of cool stuff. He's worked on all the Marvel comics, you name it. And when he came to us and said, I want to be a part of this, I'm going to do your pilots, we were floored. And that was the type of help that we received from everybody. They wanted to be a part of this thing because they knew it was special. So I want to just thank you again, John, for putting up with me and making this possible, because we would not be here without his hard work and effort. So thanks, John.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'd like to say thanks to all of you for embracing us, allowing us to come down and share this time with you. It's been really amazing. We really appreciate it. Thank you.